Cloud computing. You may think that it has only been around for a decade or so, but in fact, its history stretches back much further. Since the 1950s, organizations have been using an increasingly complex and continuously evolving system of mainframe computers to process their data. From the 70s to the 90s, several advancements in technology led to cloud computing as we know it today. For instance, in 1972, computer giant IBM released the virtual machine operating system, and throughout the 1990s, several telecommunications companies started offering their own version of virtualized private networks, or VPNs. Fast forward to today, the presence of cloud computing is becoming more widespread in our personal and professional lives. It's also creating new opportunities for businesses, allowing them to have the flexibility and efficiency to meet their growing demands. As a consequence, the need for professionals who can manage these networks properly is also becoming more pronounced. In this episode of Tech Talk, I'm excited to welcome my new co-hosts Armin Prljaca and our guest Stéphane Zema, Technology Director at PwC Luxembourg. He tells us about the benefits and drawbacks of cloud computing and the challenges of its adoption, as well as the latest trends in the industry. So, let's jump right into it. Welcome to a new episode of Tech Talk. This is episode 16, still in season 5, and it's the one on cloud computing. But before we start, I would like to welcome my new co-host, Armin. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners? Although, according to you, everyone knows you in Luxembourg.
I'll introduce myself. How much time do we have? Let's see.
We have a guest waiting for us too.
Oh, right, the guest. Yeah, of course. But I'm a designer within PwC's Experience Center, and I've been with PwC now for 4 years, and I'm really passionate about the human inside the organization, human side of the customer relationship and so on. So I'm very passionate about finding what are the client problems to be solved and how technology can help that. Yeah.
Here is the technology element.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. Now we will introduce our guests. Do you want to have the honor, Armin?
Yeah, sure. So Stéphane Zema, so you are working within the cloud practice of PwC within our technology advisory unit, and you're here today to talk to us about computational cloud or cloud computing, right?
Correct. So good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me. So my name is Stéphane Zema. I'm a director in the PwC advisory branch in charge of cloud and IT infrastructure. So supporting my client during their whole cloud journey from strategy, architecture, operations. I have 15 years of experience in the domain. I started 5 years working for a telco, Millicom. During these 5 years, I spent 2 years in Latin America. And now I'm for 10 years working at PwC.
Oh, right. I just have one question out of curiosity. I've heard that telecoms and airlines have like the most complex enterprise architecture. Is that true, and why? Just for my curiosity.
It's, they have what we call OSS, BSS. So BSS is also all the aspects related to business, customers, and all the OSS is all the backend infrastructure. So for telco, they have a huge infrastructure, for the telephony, for cloud. There is all this part which extremely complex. For airline, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I heard that it has something to do with them being the first ones to actually adopt any significant IT operations back in the 70s and 80s. And that's why apparently it's very challenging for them to go to cloud all of a sudden.
I think now everything is getting merged. But in the past, they used to have what we call IT and OT. So IT was information technology, OT was operation technology. The world of telephony had nothing to do with the world of IT. And this merge, I think, started like 15 years ago But now things are getting, everything is merging into cloud. IT and OT is one single word. So
okay, very interesting, very interesting. Well, today's episode is still about the cloud, but
That's
we
true.
also added the word computing. So what is the cloud computing then?
So cloud, I think it's about giving access to shared IT resources that are delivered by a cloud provider. And these resources are provided on demand and over the internet. And IT resources can be a lot of things. It can be just basic storage, like Google Drive, for instance. It can be processing power. It can be applications. That's the first thing. Then I would say that there is a change of model. So we are moving from CapEx to OpEx model. So before, the way we were procuring IT assets, it was making large investment upfront, and then your IT assets were depreciating. But now it's really a service consumption. We pay every month, we pay on a regular basis. So it's really OpEx, operational expenses. So it's really pay as you go model. And I would say also it's an IT outsourcing. So it's very important to control the risk, because you give some of your IT environment to a provider in exchange of a contract. But maybe just to give a general definition, I would say it's really the enabler to digital transformation. You need cloud to support all your business processes. Especially if you want to leverage data and AI, you truly need the power of cloud in terms of processing power, in terms of capacity, and so on. Yeah.
I remember this interesting quote I read on Twitter. Of course, where would you read an interesting quote? And it says something like, in the future, every company will be a software company, which makes me think to some extent that every company might be on the cloud in the future, right?
Indeed, yeah.
And what would be some drawbacks and some benefits of organizations going to the cloud?
So maybe let's be positive and let's start with the benefits. I think there are a lot. But 10 years ago, I would say I would go to the cloud to try to reduce my costs, or maybe try to reduce my data center footprint. Now in 2022, I would say that our clients are looking for innovation. They're looking to have access to innovative services like AI. They want a better experience. So they want to access any content from anywhere, from any device. They want to have access to develop new product very fast. And before, without cloud, we had to procure, to install hardware. It was taking time, sometimes 6 months, 9 months. But now with cloud, I'm going to make a marketing pitch, but it can take a few clicks and you have your application installed. The good thing, I think it gives equal chances to any company. Because before, if you take a startup, it could take a lot of effort for them to build a data platform from scratch. And now they have equal chances, big company or startup. That's a good thing. Another benefit, it's scalability, because you can have access to unlimited capacity. If you need a lot of capacity, let's say for this weekend, you will rent it. Let's say if you have an event, and on Sunday nights, you just release that capacity, which is different than the on-premise model where you have your IT assets sitting here, just waiting for traffic. So in one way, it's not an efficient way of spending money to have that. A last benefit, maybe it's business resilience. It's in general, resilience, business continuity, because your service is highly available and you have very low risk to lose your data, because data can be replicated in different locations.
That's true.
That's benefits, yeah.
So what about the drawbacks?
So
let's be honest, not everything is perfect.
That's true. So for a first drawback, I would say, let's say security, but maybe more also from a perception of lower security, because your data is not sitting close to you. It's not behind your office, in your data center. It can be everywhere in the world. And if we are GDPR compliant, it can be anywhere in Europe and on any device. So people have the sensation that it's data is not close to you.
So if you have a cyber attack, you cannot just pull the plug because
No, but it's true that you have to adopt a new approach to security. We can maybe speak more about that later. So this is one thing. The other thing I would say is maybe the reliance on someone else, on a third party to take care of your IT infrastructure. And for that reason, you will need also strong exit strategy. The ability to get out anytime. So you need to address that from a contractual point of view, from a technical point of view. You need to make sure that you can take back your data in a standard format. For example, if you want to reinstall it on premise, if something goes wrong with your cloud provider. And the last point, I would say maybe more on the change management, maybe possible lack of buy-in from the organization, because some people are used to work with a model for 20 years, 30 years, a model of managing IT infrastructure. So, of course, you need to train the people, you need to communicate a lot. But I will not insist too much on this point because that's common to any major transformation project.
That's true.
Yeah, and if you look at the drawbacks, then also I guess we should look at the customer problem that the cloud computing is trying to solve. So what is the concrete customer problem that we are trying to tackle with this technology?
Basically, I will come back to the benefits. I think you want to reduce the development cycle for new product. You want to develop faster product, smaller product, but you want to bring results to your customer, to your employees more frequently, faster.
Yeah.
I think from what we see, that's a demand that comes most often. Yeah.
So it's actually being agile in kind of a product release, having it released more frequently, but then as well having that added benefit of scalability, right? So if there's a sudden uptick in demand for this product, then you would be able to service that right away instead of thinking of how to upgrade the local market.
That's why, time to market coupled with scalability and innovation, for me, this is the cocktail of why people are going to the cloud now.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'll go to the next question, which, by the way, was still proposed by Luis.
Oh,
yes.
We already miss him. Like he's...
Yeah. Yes. Oh, well. So... this for you, Luis, if you're listening. So in terms of costs and efficiency, is betting on cloud computing more costly than in-house computing or local computing?
So that's a good question, and sometimes it's fine. It's difficult to find to have the answer because it will be different on a case-by-case basis. So first of all, I would say that now when we go to the cloud, it's not really a matter of cost anymore because we are looking all these things that we just discussed 1 minute ago. But now to answer your question, I think it will depend on what you try to achieve. If you want to replicate exactly what you have on premise, definitely it will be cheaper because you don't need to have this overhead of commodity infrastructure to hire the people to maintain that. But usually when we go to the cloud, we try to get more things. We like innovative services, strong security features. But we're not comparing apples to apples anymore. So in this way, going to the cloud can tend to be a bit more expensive. The other point I will say it can depend also on the traffic model, meaning that if you have sporadic traffic, definitely it will be cheaper to go to the cloud because, as I said before, when you need capacity, you will take it and then you just release it. So you will not have your IT assets here the whole year and maybe to be 60% utilized during the whole year.
And when we talk about that sporadic spike in traffic, is there a difference between, let's say, a B2B and a B2B or B2C or B2B2C kind of a company? You know, so many B's and C's. But is there a difference, let's say, that the organizations that are mostly using, you know, their infrastructure, whatever, for internal purposes, like editing documents, storing documents, and so on, maybe some limited external collaboration that usually goes via email, versus, let's say, a company that is using cloud to launch a product direct to consumer?
So yeah, if we're taking the e-commerce platform is a good example. Let's say there will be a new Apple product on the market, everybody will rush on the platform, and there will be a big spike. So in that case, definitely, and that's why Amazon were the first one also to deploy the cloud platform with AWS, because they had to solve their own problems. Now coming to a more corporate problems, maybe such company have more, let's say, steady traffic. So it's true that the business case may not be as obvious, but again, with this model, you will have much more benefits. For example, you can give access to your partners, to your clients. You know, if we take the Microsoft 365 platform, you can hardly have that on premise. You know, to have the easiness of.
So it's about having that real time collaboration element, but it's also just getting more out of data in general, right?
Yes.
We mentioned AI before, big data, and so on, which it's very difficult to do on premise.
Exactly. You need to leverage a huge amount of data, but I think also the next step is start exchanging data with other partners. And today, when you have your data, it's stored in your silo, if I can say like that. But the next step also for cloud is to build some kind of interoperability to exchange data with other company, and that's really the next step that is coming in the cloud.
Oh, well, then I think I might jump one question, because we want to talk about trends as well. Any other trends that you'd like to highlight, or even maybe elaborate a bit on this trend that you just mentioned?
Yes. So
if is it in the making, or it's really not yet there?
No, I think it's a good point, because what we started to discuss, I think the big trend that we hear right now, it's about data sovereignty or so.
Yes.
We hear, I mean, given the current geopolitical context, we hear a lot about sovereignty for EU in terms of energy. We hear also about the need to be more sovereign in terms of semiconductors. But in terms of data, being sovereign in terms of data, it's very important. You may have heard about the initiative of Gaia X. That's something very important, and the idea is really to try to facilitate data exchange between different actors, whether we talk about actors in the same industry or cross industry. And the reason is that, as I mentioned, data today is stored in silos. There is no much exchange between companies, so the potential of data is not fully exploited. And the idea of Gaia X is really to force this interoperability, to build standards in terms of cloud, in terms of data, really to facilitate data exchange. For example, to have a healthcare company that exchange data with a public sector company, or even within the healthcare domain, we can see that in the pharmacovigilance, we have one specific format. In another domain of healthcare, we can have another specific format of data. But now the idea with Gaia X also is to have these exchanges even within the healthcare sector or between other sectors. So it's true that that's an initiative which is currently ongoing. So it was pushed by the Ministry of Germany and France.
Oh, okay.
Now it's all EU all EU country investing into that. And the first services should be released this year in 2022. But my belief is that it should really help accelerating the cloud adoption in the most sensitive sectors, like healthcare. That's the point. But just to complement, it will not be a competitor so to the hyperscaler, the cloud solution we have today. The idea is also to work with them as a complement.
Okay, very interesting. But Gaia X is countries together, or is there like a centralized entity like the European Commission, or how is it working in practice?
So it's an initiative, it's a consortium, and indeed it's led by EU, by the EU, and all the decision, meaning the board of Gaia X, is only EU company.
Okay.
But then all the discussion, the idea is to be open with the world. It's not to, to close Europe on itself. And of course, it will be a big benefit for Gaia X also to open themselves to other countries. For example, working with a US cloud hyperscaler, because we need to leverage this strong solution to build the standard with them. So it's not one single country, that is leading that. It's all EU country, and there is one board, and all decisions are taken by European.
Okay, all clear for me.
Cool. And what are some challenges that cloud computing is currently facing?
Like cybersecurity.
Yeah, like cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Just giving a hint there.
Yes.
It's one challenge, indeed, cyber threats. I think the reason is that now we can access to any content from anywhere. So before, if you wanted to access your content, you had to connect into your corporate office, on your corporate network, from your corporate laptop. But now you can access to the data from a laptop, a smartphone, from a smartwatch, IoT sensors, connected machines, maybe in the Industry 4.0, connected cars or so. So the idea is that the surface of attack is increasing, so it gives options to hacker to penetrate the network. But the idea is really to adopt a new approach also to security. If you adopt very strong security habits, you could end up also with stronger security than what you have on premise. For example, to control the identity and access. For example, you need to ensure who can access what, how, and when. For example, you could allow one user to access, let's say, your laptop. You will authorize him to access your laptop from Luxembourg. But if you see that he tries to access from South Africa, you will say it's not a normal behavior. So please confirm your identity. Give me a second password. But if he try to connect from another device, then you will block him because you don't recognize that device. I would say that encryption, of course, you need to encrypt your data at rest when it's in transit, and when it's in use, when it's used by your processor, and that's a trend I forgot to mention. Also, confidential computing for encrypting the data when it's used by your processor. That's a trend that is coming. And as we're talking about challenges, I think another one is maybe centralization. And we see that, today we have data which is centralized in big cloud platform, like in Frankfurt, in Dublin, in Amsterdam. And the data can take some time to travel from Luxembourg to go to Dublin, for example, from your mobile phone to the cloud provider. So this delay, this latency is not an issue at all today. But if we're talking about future use cases, like in the healthcare domain, patient monitoring, or automatic driving, self-driving cars, cloud gaming, we will really need to have real-time decision, real-time processing of data. So that's where will come the new era of edge computing, where cloud providers are going to build a smaller cloud, but much closer to where data is produced. Meaning we will have different smaller cloud in Luxembourg, for example.
It's very interesting. Yeah. Well, when Carla spoke to you last time a year ago, she also asked you on about your perception on how businesses in Luxembourg are doing in terms of their cloud transformation journey, and compared to other countries, maybe in the region or elsewhere in Europe. Has there been an evolution since then?
So indeed, there was an evolution. So maybe if we look worldwide, first of all, I mean, US is much in advance compared to other regions of Europe.
And why?
Why? It's because I think they have a different perception of data. In US, data is really seen as a commercial asset. And in Europe, data privacy.
So what is the opposite of an asset?
No, but really, with GDPR, we consider data privacy as a human fundamental right. So that's why I would say that in Europe, companies maybe tend to be a bit behind. But it's really, to have GDPR is really a strong progress. Huh? I mean, it's not a bad thing. But if we are looking at the situation in Europe and Luxembourg, so we know that Luxembourg is quite FS-centric, so financial services, and we need to comply to several regulations, like from the CSSF and so on. So that's why maybe companies in the FS area tend to be cautious, and this is normal. But since the last time we talked, I don't remember which month was it, but probably more than 1 year ago, we've seen quite a huge progress, and in all area, in all sectors. In the financial services sector, we have seen a lot of moves into, let's say, cloud collaboration solution.
Was this something in the making, or pandemic has brought about the change?
Both, yes. Exactly, both, because the trend was already starting before.
So it just got accelerated by the pandemic. So.
Yeah. Especially around cloud collaboration, that was a big push into that, because people had to. In March 2020, they had to communicate with anyone from anywhere, basically. Yeah. But you're right; it was really a strong accelerator. And the CSSF also was more agile, so for company at that time, who were looking to go into the cloud. In the private sector, we have seen some very aggressive moves. Some company went 100% into the cloud. In the public sector, and if we look at the EU institutions, they also take this topic very seriously. Their strategy is to go cloud first, but only with public data and with internal data, which is not confidential. Confidential data, of course, will stay on premise. And other sectors in the healthcare domain, which is very sensitive, we have seen also very interesting moves, like the solution from Laboratoire Réunis. You have maybe done COVID tests
yes, there was no escape.
So yes. Basically, they have developed their this large-scale testing platform under the cloud of Amazon, AWS, really to detect cluster of people who are infected by COVID, to have very strong scalability, because the push of the government was to make 20,000 tests per day. And this platform was built in 4 weeks or 6 weeks, I don't remember, and to be able to do it to do 20,000 tests per day.
Well, I have to say impressive. It's impressive, and it was very well organized. I remember thinking it was very well done, I think, and it worked very well as well.
That's a very good example of actually cloud computing solving a customer problem, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And an important one in society. So I wonder in future what kind of problems will the cloud computing solve? Because rather today still people are thinking of, just taking what I have on-prem, replicating on cloud, reducing the cost. But that's another way of thinking, is thinking about your business model and seeing where, what you can do with the data that you have, and how you can improve the delivery of your service to the client.
I think it will come to, the cloud will be there also to support the business to make real-time decision. So in an ideal world, you will have sensors everywhere. So you will be able to collect data from anything, any event that is going to change its state. The information is going to be, let's say, uploaded to the cloud. So the company decision makers will have the visibility of every piece of assets, its state in real time, and they will be able to make projection on anything. Maybe they will be able to predict a failure on one piece of equipment in a car, for example, or in a machine. That's, I think, the trend that is coming. It will generate huge amount of data, and this is where IoT and edge computing is going also to play a role.
And your team also helps clients adopt the cloud. So how do you do it, and what are some steps that clients could follow to adopt this cloud?
The cloud transformation.
Cloud transformation, yes. Indeed.
Or is it transformation into cloud?
Exactly.
It's the next step.
We had this discussion in the last episode, by the way.
First you do cloud transformation, and then you transform your organization in the cloud. But usually we have different steps. So it's a journey. It's not a work that you do in 4 months and then you're done. It's really a step-by-step journey. Of course, the first step is to build your cloud strategy. So you need to understand your goals, what you want to achieve. Do you want to innovate? Do you want to develop product much faster? Do you want to reduce your operational costs? You have also to ask yourself the question about what scope of data do I want to put in the cloud? All my data, or just a subset of data with non-confidential data? You need to have also a view during this cloud strategy of how many applications, what applications do you have? And then you're going to look at the business criticality of your application, the sensitivity of data, the complexity of the architecture of these applications. And from that, you will be able to detect a roadmap, what application I can move, when and how. And you can conclude this phase with a business case, just to ensure that the move is viable from a financial perspective, to understand what savings you are going to do from hardware. Maybe you're going to hire less people. You will maybe you will make intangible benefits like productivity savings thanks to cloud collaboration tools. So I think that's a big step around cloud strategy. For the client of the financial services in the FS industry, they will have to do a filing at this stage to in case the outsourcing has a material impact. They will have to ask the approbation to the CSSF to go into the cloud. So that's the initial steps, and then naturally you're going to move into cloud architecture. So defining your network, your security architecture, your monitoring and supervision architecture. You will need to define your governance mechanism, because as we mentioned, with cloud you can have really unlimited capacity. So at the end of the month, you can end up with unlimited invoices also. So it's very important to put policies, controls about what can you do to not spend too much money. And then the operating model, the organizational model, you will need to adapt your organizational structure, for example, by adding a cloud competency center, by adding a cloud governance board at the strategic level. You will have to upskill your people, not only in the IT domain, but also in the finance team, because they will have to follow up on your costs. Your contract management team also, because they will have to follow up on SLA, on any breach of contract. So yeah, these are all the steps, and it's not a short-term transition and transformation. It's really a business transformation. You need to adapt your processes, your organization, and of course all your IT.
So how long more or less this can take? And is it like short, or is something that's it's a process that it's there forever. So you have to keep up with all these processes.
It's for, let's say, the first step is about foundations. And the foundation, let's say it's the first piece of work you have to do depends on the size. If you have 20 applications, or if you have 500, like we've seen some clients having that, this will take 3 to 6 to 9 months, maybe to 1 year. But then, as you said, it's ongoing. It's always ongoing transformation. The next step will be to adopt what we call DevOps practices to try to automate the development of your product, automate the deployment of your application, the testing, and so on. So that's really a continuous improvement process.
Also because cloud is changing. It changes over time. So needs will also change and possibilities exist and change. Yeah. Okay. Well, these are all my questions. I don't know, Armin, if you have any other questions.
No, I've actually learned a lot today. So it was very, very interesting conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Stéphane. I don't know if you want to add anything to...
No, it was a pleasure to be here. But as a conclusion, I would say to not be afraid of the cloud, to start moving step by step. To start maybe with non-sensitive data, but also very importantly, it's like everything, not put all your eggs in the same baskets and adopt for a multi-cloud approach.
Yeah, I think it's in human nature to be afraid of change and to be afraid of unknown above all. We are all afraid of unknown one way or another.
Yes, but cloud has been here for a long time now, actually. I discovered that today.
Yeah, that's true. But also it depends on industry per industry. Some industries are newer to that, I guess, and also country per country, maybe.
Exactly, yeah. I would say that the biggest leap forward now can be done by probably, let's say, the healthcare industry, the defense industry. Finance is already moving, but the next step will be for the transformation of healthcare, insurance industry also. That's where... The biggest, let's say, transformation are going to come.
Interesting.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Stéphane.
Thank you for your time.
It was a pleasure having you. So, Armin, do you know what is our slogan?
Our slogan, technology made simple over a cup of coffee.
Well done. Were you reading now? Okay, or whatever you like, Stéphane. We always like to ask our guests, what is your favorite drink? Maybe it's not coffee. Is it a beer, wine?
Well, it's Friday, 2 p.m., so it will be a glass of water.
Okay.
We'll ask you again in a few hours.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
And that's all for today. This is Tech Talk, technology made simple over a cup of coffee. Thank you for listening, and until the next episode.